Anti-Afro Svengalis, this is a part two of sorts from the initial video that I posted. It was asking you to match the two people in the video with the life activities and circumstances that were presented. I'm not going to tell you who the two people are. You'll pretty much figure it out in this video if you listen here before you go and check out that video. Be sure to check it out, and I think you'll find it interesting. Now, before I go on to the main commentary, I wanted to bring up Plants from Hell from April Cragley, however you want to pronounce her name, the confirmed cyberbully of minors. I mean, I just want to point out that all of this pruning and manipulating and appearing to care for plants, I just think it's just a process to conjure up more evil. So I call them plants from hell. The whole goal is trying to get others to feel as miserable and craggly as she is. Because the evildoers get bored, rapidly get bored with themselves, they get bored with each other, so they are always on the hunt, desperately trying to possess other souls. And when I say possess other souls, I specifically mean trying to make others feel the way they do. And best believe lying is part of the equation. Filing false reports is part of the equation. Attacking people's family members is part of the equation. Any area of life where April Cragley has experienced any turmoil or any suffering, best believe she wants to try to lay it on you. Now, everybody's been through trials, tribulations, suffering, some sort of trauma, whether it be mild, moderate, or severe. Everybody has their own stuff that they deal with, have dealt with, will deal with. But that's not good enough for April Cragley. She wants you to take on her suffering as well. She will utilize what method that she thinks she can pull off. And that process has been, by and large, an epic fail, which creates even more frustration. I'm not going to spend any more time on April Cragley. The reason why I never really reacted to what she did is because what I just said. If she's miserable and unhappy and wants you to feel what she feels, that's on her. Why would I stop and try to interact and indulge with that bullshit? It doesn't matter what she says about me. She's still going to feel the same way she feels. It's not going to have any impact on me whatsoever. But there's another element to that. When you start running around filing false reports on people, that becomes something else. When you start receiving stolen Social Security information, yeah, I'm talking about Mona stole the Social Security information and passed it around. Here is the list, folks, and there are more. I should update this list. Distributed the information to these subjects, April Cragley, and Grown Mold or Grown Man or what do you want to, Grown Mo, whatever name you want to give him. They were part of the equation as well. So they have to resort to actual criminal behavior in order to see if they can get some sort of satisfaction in the form of seeing you respond to what they're doing. If they want to continue to perpetrate criminal acts, that is on them. One thing I will tell you for sure, no one except them, them means anybody participating in that bullshit, is going to suffer any consequences or serve any sort of consequence or outcome resulting for their criminal behavior. And you had Grown Mold saying, well, they haven't come and arrested me. Well, it took them 4 years to get to the PPP loan. Scammers. So whoever can think whatever they want. We were told to report each and every incident, and that's what we have done, and that's what we will continue to do. So let me move on to the main commentary. So I wanted to talk about going all the way back to like early to mid 2020 when Grown Mold first made the scene. He was over on Smoke's page. Smoke was running that page. He was a sidekick. April Cragley was also a sidekick. What April Cragley ended up doing was becoming a moderator when Mrs. Smoke really wasn't involved initially. At one point, she did come on, and I knew that April Cragley was complaining because Mrs. Smoke was unblocking people. I wasn't over on the page a lot because of the dust up I had with Smoke. At the time, we were going back and forth. So I wasn't spending an inordinate amount of time over there, but I would hear about it. And then sometimes I would go over there and I would see people complaining about being blocked, and I would see grown mold coming in and out. But let's lay this to rest. Smoke ran that page. He was the one in charge. It was obvious. It was never a successful page because of grown mold and April Cragley. That's a bunch of BS. I'm going to recall for you things that I heard about grown mold, and I'm focusing mainly on what came out of his mouth. And now we're at this point today, which I'm going to address. My first memory of grown mold was when he came into the Smokes live stream going off on those freaks, those goo guys, because they apparently had been saying something about April Cragley, his supposed wife. Are they married? I don't give a shit, okay? His supposed wife, girlfriend, whatever. He came in and he was screaming and hollering and saying how you're talking about women and how, what kind of BS is this? So the initial message, yeah, it was noble. Why are you attacking women? Why are you doing live streams on women? He wasn't saying it to Smoke. He was saying it to people who are in the chat who do their own live streams and videos. And a lot of them were focusing on April Cragley for any number of reasons. So he came in and did that whole show. But what he said was, I'm a murderer and I did this and I did that. I don't recall at the time him quantifying, but he self-identified as a murderer. And I distinctly recall how Smoke edited out that part of the live when he posted it or reposted it. He edited it out. He edited out that portion. Okay, so after that, grown mold would go around saying he lost it because people were picking on April Cragley, which anybody can understand that. But as time went on, more and more began to self-reveal. Grown mold would talk about the prison days, and some of the information is interesting. But at first, he wasn't big on this men in the booty stuff and men on men and you're gay and misgendering people and I'm gonna beat you until the shit run down your leg and all. He wasn't doing all that at first. It was a build-up. As time went on, he started getting more and more comfortable. But I thought it was odd because he kept saying, I'm only here on YouTube because my wife was attacked. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I don't spend my time. And as he was saying that, he was spending more and more and more time on YouTube. A hell of a lot more time than I was spending. I would post my videos. I didn't run around to all these live streams. There were very few places that I went to, and that's even true today. But whatever the case, if you want to spend 24/7 on YouTube, that's your business. But he kept saying that wasn't his gig. So as time goes on, he gets more and more into telling his story. And this is what I specifically recall grown mold saying. When you're talking about present day, it doesn't jive. It doesn't match up. I recall when someone had asked him, how can you be carrying guns? You said that you had murdered somebody. How can you be eligible to carry firearms? Because he was talking about firearms, how he was using firearms. He was describing the firearms. And I do know something about firearms. I was listening. It was interesting. And he said, oh, the reason why I'm able to have a firearm license is because when I was arrested for murder, I was a minor. He said, he said that. And so he said, since I was a minor, that conviction does not carry over and doesn't apply when I became an adult. Now, the statement in of itself is partially true or could be partially true depending on what state you live in, and it depends on the crime. If you were caught as a minor with a gun, like you're just holding the gun and they found it on you, they're not going to remove your firearm possession privileges as an adult. If you're just caught with a gun, if you use a gun to kill somebody or you use a gun in a crime, in this state, you are going to be barred from owning firearms. Other states are different. It depends on your state. But generally speaking, the more violence that you engage with a firearm, the more likely you're going to encounter a roadblock either with the state and or the feds from being able to possess guns as an adult. Now, if there's a prohibition, you can get an attorney and see if you can get an exemption. And I was thinking to myself, it could be true or could not be true. But he was adamant about owning and possessing firearms. So whoever posed that question, thank you very much, because that's up in the air. And I'm talking about at the time. There is double confirmation of what's actual reality, fact. Grown Mold has been arrested for illegally possessing firearms. It's right there on the record. Here's the thing, though. He still didn't get a Fed charge. It was a state charge. He's trying. He hasn't made it there to the federal penitentiary. Then he said he had been transferred. He'd been transferred up to Lompoc Prison, which is a federal institution here in California. You know about all the military bases where we all were born. And my sister was born on Vandenberg Air Force Base, which is just a stone's throw from Lompoc. So I know about the area. We've been up there. We visit all the military bases where we all were born. That was something our family made a point. They have a county jail there. If for some reason he had to go there, why would he have to go to the federal penitentiary if he was convicted on state charges? Was he going there to testify? He said he was actually in that prison. It didn't seem credible. It seemed really off. Out of all the people in Pennsylvania serving time, he would go to a federal pen in Lompoc. It just did not seem believable. It's all hard to believe because it simply isn't true. You can confirm for yourself. The Bureau of Prisons, and the link is below the title, allows anybody to search for anyone who's been incarcerated in a federal institution. That information will appear whether or not the person remains detained or they've been released. You can go do the search yourself. Look, Michael Vick, we know he was in the federal penitentiary. You put his name in, he'll come right up. And that is Eric with a K, people. Berry. Don't believe me. Don't believe a damn thing I say. Go and search for yourself. Kip had mentioned when he was referring to Grown Mole, you know, he's like to say all these things about what a badass he is and whose ass he can kick and all this. Let me say this before I give you the quote from Kip, keeping it plain. Grown Mold makes all these threats, and I'm not into the physical thing, like fighting and stuff like that. No, I avoid at all costs, if at all possible, any situation that's going to get me locked up. I will do anything and everything to avoid the situation, but I will defend myself if it comes down to it. But I'm not, quote, looking for physical confrontations. But he is always making statements about kicking asses, and the favorite term he uses, beating you so bad that shit run down your leg. He loves saying that. Now, we do know he is a boxer, but how are you going to prevail over those? Like, for example, he makes threats to those who have championship wrestling titles. He makes threat to those who are martial artists. He makes threat to those who are weightlifters. He doesn't know that their background. He even made threat to someone who's an expert in hop keto, specialized in throwing your ass around. Okay, how is he going to take these people on? Okay, let's say he does pack a punch, and that would be debatable at this point because he has bad knees. How are you getting the stability to have power in the punch if your knees are unstable, if you have bad knees? Now, listen, keep this in mind. I'm speaking within his context because he spends all this time talking about whose ass he's going to kick. How are you going to connect with a punch if somebody gets you on the ground? They can stand far enough away to avoid the punch and they can rush in and get you down. A punch isn't going to help you unless somebody's standing up in front of your face and they're going to let you punch them. What if they use a takedown method? You're lost. So he loves to say these things, and I guess it makes him feel better. It makes him feel like he still has something that people physically will fear him. But he's also talked about, I'm going to send somebody to go and get you. Really? Oh, okay. So is that an acknowledgement that you can't do it yourself? Because I'm focusing on the hand-to-hand thing. I'm not talking about weapons. Let me get to Kip's comment. Grown Mold spends a lot of time talking about the Las Vegas situation with the Finleys, the husband and wife who were murdered, and the person charged with the crime, this Manny Ruiz. Kip had stated he wouldn't have the guts to pull that trigger. Kip, you can look at it two ways. If a person is truly defending themselves, it's legit self-defense, and it's do or die, I would say it takes guts to pull the trigger. I would say that. But I would call it true cowardice if you shoot somebody in the back of the head. See, the Las Vegas Police Department want to know, how did the woman end up with a bullet in the back of her head? That, I would say, is a coward. It wouldn't take guts to do. That is easy. Being a coward is incredibly easy, especially if you're not looking someone in the face when you do shit like that. So yeah, Las Vegas PD challenged this self-defense. How is it self-defense if the woman has a bullet to the back of her head? How is it self-defense when you got off 7 shots?